What's up, man? Thanks for coming back.
Hey, Adam. How are you?
Round two.
Round two.
I feel like the first time with every single person I've had twice now, like that was like the warm up. It was a cheaper room, different mics. This is like more comfortable now. See if people let loose a little bit more.
Well, it's not that I'm not used to a cheaper room and a second time.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think it gives everybody a chance to listen to their interview 30 times and go, God, I wish I didn't say and are that. Yeah. And you're like, now I'm going to go back the second time and I'm going to try to correct it.
There was one time I did a thing at Steven's office, and it had been a while since I spoke to a room, and I said right like a million times, and I went back and listened. Right. And I was like, where did that come? I was so upset at myself that I used none of that content. Like, it was some good stuff. I didn't use any of it because I said right a million times. So now it's like when I speak, I never say right.
Yeah. I like when you spoke and you told the guy, change your last name because it was Fontana. And you said, change your name.
Oh, yeah. I did say that. I would just, listen, when you're a real estate agent and your last name is a city, don't put your last name because then people think you're a real estate agent in Fontana.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
That's nothing wrong with that. Dude, house prices in Fontana are insane now.
House prices are insane everywhere.
That's true. If everyone doesn't know, Anthony is with Ticor Title. Is it interesting now, like, because it's been so, I mean, I've never gone through a down market or a weird market, and you obviously have. That's when you started. If it is, like, now, are you feeling like how, like, people are getting a little tighter? Like, I feel like every person I talk to right now, like loan officers, agents, are like...
Well, I think everybody's approaching every day or this market like you see people in a horror movie where they're just like going around the corner, because it's interesting because everybody is Nostradamus and they're trying to predict their fate, and then most of us just go out there and work whether it's going to be good or bad. There is weirdness to this one because you don't have some of the things last time that this was. You had a pandemic that's still looming a little bit out there. And then you have, kind of a war maybe. And then you have no inventory. Had a house down my street, saw like 50 cars in an hour, which makes everybody like myself go, hey, we could sell this and live in an RV.
Yeah.
But then again, where do you go?
Yeah.
Because, and you obviously have smarter people than me in here about interest rates. So for all of us, we just go out and work, because I was in the best market. I've been in the worst market so far, and then I've been in this market. So this is just a market.
Yeah.
We've had inventory issues before. I've been in when they had one house for sale in Riverside that sold when there was nothing but inventory.
Yeah.
So I just think people are so busy trying to predict things that they don't have a chance to really live their life. I think that's where we're all at. Because my problem with this business, when I bought into it, I bought into it, is there was never any part that you felt that you could coast. So you know that because you bike. If you're constantly going, you don't really ever get a chance to see the scenery. Like, I can say that when I drove a truck, I went through some of the most beautiful parts of this country that you could name. Rocky Mountains 50 times. And I can tell you this, I never stopped once.
Yeah.
I never looked. I got out of the truck one time in Yellowstone. I think I heard a gray wolf.
You got back in.
Got right back in there and whizzed in the truck.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think that's my issue with any of this, is we never get a chance to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to enjoy that. God forbid you post a photo of you on vacation, the 900 text messages you get from the workaholics that work out once and then never work out again. But I just think that's the hard part for this, is you're constantly trying to predict your future.
Yeah. I think that's the hard part, is that, like, is nowadays it's not, now it's like especially people shooting content, it's like, it's hilarious. Like, I made a video today talking about an article that is completely wrong based on a new law that's starting, but it's just fear-mongering, but that's what's going to get clicks.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the thing that I laugh, that it's like, this article is completely wrong. All the facts are wrong about it. You can double check it. And so it's like, everyone's trying to make this whole the market's going to crash. The market's not going to crash videos because it's like they're trying to be right. They're trying to get the most views. That's what everyone's talking about. That's what everything's going to be about. But it's like there's so many factors that could happen or change. It's like when clients come to me and it's like, dude, I can only tell you like what's happening in the next 30 days.
You wonder why that is, because I think because of social media, idiots rule.
Well,
I mean, it's literally like being in an insane asylum, because people that are so-called experts. The good thing about our little our area is I know who those people are. I mean, I've been to their homes. I know who they are. I know we have a thing called the internet. You can pull production. You see who's what and not what. But there is this fear that you want to be right. It's like somebody that gets up every day and says there's going to be an earthquake. One day
they'll be right.
They'll be right.
Well, that's like Peter Schiff. I don't know if people know who Peter Schiff is. Do you? No. Peter Schiff's a guy who's been pumping about gold forever. He also owns a gold company where he buys gold through and whatever. And he's been talking about the market crashing since like 2007 and how there's going to be this big balloon and the Fed's pumping all this money into it. And it's like sooner or later he might be right, but he's been saying this for 5 years now. So it's like every time he gets on TV, he keeps on pumping. Oh, it's going to crash. It's going to crash. It's like, well, it hasn't yet. So,
but see, that's the beauty, because we're doing this podcast right after the Will Smith incident, which makes that beautiful. Is so rare that somebody gets called to task immediately. So many people say bullshit on the media and all over. No one calls it. Maybe at the bottom, somebody calls them out, but no one ever does. That's why Mike Tyson said, so few people have never been punched in the face, because people can say things, anything from social media, anything. So to me, that person has a voice, and he doesn't say that he's been wrong 30 times.
Yeah.
I've heard more predictions, and the problem for me, sometimes I've been like a dog that you fake that you're going to throw a Frisbee, and I go, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And I get worked up too. I mean, I have everything invested in this. So when I hear Ukraine and all these scary things, I have to switch that off, because it totally does affect the way I do my business. And I'll sit down with the people that are in my team, and I'm like, should we do it? And I mean, many times fear grabs me. It grabs you, folks. It does. And I'll make decisions from sitting in fear, and they're always bad decisions. They're always scarcity thinking, because it always comes from that guy like, I could have bought Uber. But you didn't, because you were afraid. And so many...
I should have bought a house in 2020. Like, literally, there's a house. Scott Geezer was listing it on the Wood Streets, a 2-1 for $360, and I could have bought it. I would have had no problem getting that house, but then the whole time I was like, oh, what if the market's going to crash? And now the house is probably worth $460 now.
Did you go to the people that scared you and do the Will Smith to them?
No.
But you didn't, because like I said, my family has a long history. My grandfather could have bought the land that Disney's on. But at the time, in the 40s or 50s, he said, a mouse? You're going to have a kingdom to a mouse. You're coming out of the Depression era. But then idiots were like, we could have been rich.
Yeah.
But the problem is how many opportunities come to us. I agree with you. My first house that me and my wife bought together like 20 years ago was $285,000. We bought the model with the furniture and the glued books. And I absolutely remember laying in my bed, looking at the ceiling, thinking, this is going to be great for the next people that get this house when we lose it. Literally, I just sat there. And dumbly, me, I told my wife, because, I'm like, oh, fuck. Now think about 285. It's over there by, Mary Street. It's like $795 now or some craziness. We held on through the down and all that, but it was... So nobody thinks like that. We don't go back in history and going, yeah, it will work out. Like, yeah, prices will come down. I mean, we sailed through a pandemic. I mean, which for a lot of us was the worst thing we've ever seen, because we've never have seen a pandemic. So to me, we just don't. That's why we do things like this. That's why you have to have those friends on speed dial. You got to know Doug. all the worst decisions I make is when I call Doug. But you have to have that friend to go, listen, it works out. It does. So that guy 20 some years ago, if I could go and go, it's $285.
Yeah.
The payment was maybe it was $2,000, which, you know, you spend more on, you know, coffee.
Yeah.
But that guy was fearful, and he listened to other fearful people. And that's, like I said, when I drove a truck, that's what you felt.
Well, I think fear is like, I was having an agent in here the other day, and I'm like, why don't you post? She was coming to me to post content. She's like, why don't you posting that? Oh, you know, I'm like, it's fear. And I go, you won't post content about real estate, even though you're a real estate agent, but you'll post content about your face or your body or you in the gym. And I go, what you're trying to tell me is you're not scared of posting something you're confident in, but you are scared to post something you're not confident in. I said, so it's not thinking of new content ideas, getting confident in what you're speaking about.
Well, that's well said. It's, you know, I can talk, but this makes me afraid because it's unknown.
Yeah.
And I try to sit there. That's why most of the books I read are on fear, because I try to think back. I tell myself, every time I think from this fear point, I shouldn't, but I do. You know, it's like when you go buy the car, I'm going to get the cloth seats. I'm going to get not the thing. Then 2 years later, you're like, I should have got the guy.
That's what happened to me.
Ding.
Yeah.
I should have loaded that thing.
Well, like, I was between two cars and I was buying a Range Rover, and I literally called someone. I was like, yo, like, what should I get? And he's like, dude, just buy the nicer one. It's an extra 10 grand. Just buy the nicer one.
You know why? Because somewhere we were made that way. And I tried to not do it with my kids. You'll have kids. Like, it's put in you. It's fear. Mm-hmm. Like with your parents, that generation was like, I don't want to hurt you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're just trying to I don't want you to get hurt, so don't think too much.
Yeah, don't
or
think
don't
too big.
wish too much.
Yeah.
Like, even as a kid, I wished for the beach house on the 5th row.
Yeah.
Not the front.
Yeah.
So when I married my wife, like, she's like, you could have the front. And I was like, oh no, I don't know. That seems heck. By the way, the reason I got that model home is I went off on a trip. I was flipping back and forth. I went on a trip, and my wife called me and said, I just bought the house. And I almost swerved off the road. No joke. Ehrenberg, Arizona, almost off the side of the road. She said, I'm just tired of it. And she said, I bought the furniture. I went, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. And she was right. The house we live in now, which you've been to, she just bought it. Because it's just, I come from that, I think it's just that expectation of, like, I don't know. I think it's that negative mindset.
Yeah.
And by the way, people keep talking about your brain and how you're feeling. I've done numerous books on your brain is not supposed to make you happy. Your brain is supposed to make you afraid.
Yeah, it's here to protect you.
Yeah, it's the caveman brain, because your brain tells you, don't go down there, there's a dinosaur. Don't go down there, you might get killed. It's not. So what it takes is something else to get a hold of it and go, this is dumb. We're not going to swerve off the road. We drive every day in the road. And that's what this pandemic did. It gripped in fear. People were just fearful. That's what makes people buy toilet paper and all this other stuff. So it also gets a hold of us in our job. Most realtors that sell to people have the same fear that they're trying to overcome with their client. I don't know. I don't know. The realtor's like, dude, it's the best investment ever. But they're thinking, But so to me, I agree with you. If you don't have that friend or somebody you count on that says, hey, get the loaded car. And every time, I am telling you, 110% of the time that I ever skimped, I so regretted it. As you're sitting there rolling your windows up in 2020, you're like, why didn't I just... You need a friend like Doug who says, buy it and pay your taxes later. Who says that, by the way? He does.
Yeah.
But
hey, that's why you just bought Better Homes and Gardens.
That's why we need friends like we have, because the bottom line is everybody goes into their career in this business like the Breakfast Club, the movie. You go there, you're sitting down, we're all trying to act cool. We're all trying to not be real, because nobody wants to be that person scared and all that. Yeah. But once you unpack everything, and start talking about it, then it gets people actually really talking. That's all social media is. You're right. I'm half naked, but I want to be respected. No. Here's me working out a lot, but I'm not successful in my career. No.
Yeah.
I love my wife. We get it.
Yeah.
So I often look at it and go, what are we trying to say?
Yeah.
In some weird way, and we've heard that, we have never, as a society, as a planet, been more connected and more alone.
Well, I think this problem is that we're all just, it's so funny. Like, it's what the image you're perceiving. Like, I tell people all the time, like, it's when someone posts something online, you have to figure out why they're making that post. They're not just doing it randomly. We don't do anything random anymore. Every post we make is literally something aimed at, it's, and the perfect example I always tell this, it's like, you can always tell when someone breaks up their boyfriend or gets cheated on. For the next month, every one of their posts is them out, partying up, having a good time. And you know what the sad part is? They're probably going in, looking who's looked at their story, waiting for that person to look at their story. And that was it.
Well, because if you study it, dopamine, which is used with drugs, everything, they've done studies where that like is like dopamine. It is.
Yeah.
And we count our lives by, oh my God, I didn't get any posts or any likes. You're right. But unfortunately, I have to disagree with that. I think people post stuff randomly, their feelings. 10 years later, you look back, like sometimes, which is good and bad about Facebook, they let you know what you put, and you're like, I didn't even think that had a letter in it. It should have had a number.
Yeah.
But you look back and you think you can see where you were at that time. And I see the beginning stages of it for me, and then where it's gotten to and what I'm trying to say. Most of the time, I'm just trying to put something stupid and something silly because it's so serious on there. I mean, there's so much doom and gloom, and I wonder what, I kind of look at that person, I can kind of see your life. Your life, if you're still worried about the election or who's in and who's out, I got a feeling that shows me a lot about where you're at.
Yeah.
And so to me, the Nostradamuses of the world, I don't know what you're trying to portray or what you're trying to say, but a lot of them is like, dude, you never did the time in the trenches to know what that will look like. Yeah. Now, I don't, also when I do talk to offices, I don't want to be scared straight, but it ends up coming like that because I'm like, when you see somebody so willy-nilly about it and they've never seen the winner, that's the funny thing about animals. They understand seasons and winters. That's why animals adjust.
Yeah.
They understand when the winter will come. They don't just sit there one day in the middle like, oh, it's snowing.
It's like bears. They fill up and they go, the moment they feel winter coming, they get prepared for it.
Not us.
No.
But also, too, it goes back to what we're talking about. You know, life is meant to, there's so much. I think a lot what's hard, too, you've seen a few celebrity deaths. You've seen some things that are moments like you just like, wow, that person's, like things do just happen quickly. So you have to think at some point, here I am driving around a cloth seat with roll down doors. And I'm going to die.
Yeah.
At some point. So a lot of what I do in our title business is you do trust. People going to leave their stuff to their kids. And then you brought a couple interesting ones. And the kids don't care. Yeah. They sell in the baseball collection and everything. Yeah. They don't care. But, to me, like I said, I'm just trying in my best to enjoy it. Like this last January, February, I don't care what anybody said, felt like January and February. The last year, January, February was like
slammed.
It was like going to Disneyland. It was fake and it felt really good. But this one was like, yeah. And you can tell when you get people reaching out to you like, hey man, what was that program you were talking about like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like now I feel like that's kind of the same thing with like social and stuff like that. Like you can tell people are like, okay, how do I? It's like, dude, you should have been doing this 3 years ago. But now that it's getting tight and things are slowing down and it's like, it's hard, like you're saying, enjoying it. It's hard when it's like super busy You're so busy in the work that you're like banging out. And then winter comes and things slow down. And then you're too scared to go enjoy the downtime because you got to get the wheel moving again. And so that's the thing that sucks about sales or whatever in general. It's like when things are great, things are moving so fast, you're having to keep up that you're not enjoying the moment. And then when things slow down, it's like, oh my God, I got to get this wheel going again because I got to pay bills. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's just like the fear of keeping it always going. And the thing that people don't get, especially in real estate, is like I, as a listing agent or a buyer's agent, can't control what happens. If you work with a top real estate agent, and you would know, you work with a lot of, it's like if I list a house and rates jump up to like they are at 5% right now and we're overpriced and no one wants to buy, perfect, I'll throw myself under the bus on a deal. I listed a house last November and we didn't get one showing. They relisted their house this week with another agent, got full price in 2 days. And the seller reached out, oh, we'll just let you know. And I go, dude, that's 5 months ago. The market's completely different. Like in that moment, that agent 5 months ago probably would not have gotten that buyer. Same thing right now. When buyers come to me, I'm like, or if you're firing your old agent because you're not getting offers accepted, you're not going to get your offers accepted with me. It's just the market that we're in.
Well, you're right. 5 months ago is a lifetime ago. Mm-hmm. It could be a beginning and an end, and everybody's trying to predict a market. I've never predicted a market, just was in it in the middle of it, and things.
Well, no one called 2007, 8, 9, and I love that. Well, everyone knew then. Everyone knows now, but no one knew then.
But here's the deal. I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Scott Geezer, because a long time ago there was a group called Agent Alliance, something that me and him started when the REO market was there. When people started feeling defunct, they weren't seeing each other. There was no business. Offices were down, and people had kept saying, like, we used to have events. Way back in the day, the board, people used to meet at events. Office meetings used to be a dress-up event. The board meetings used to be a dress-up event. My daughter made her debut there when she was born. And it used to be a thing. So we started this thing that was just kind of on the board. We'd have drinks at the end, but you would invite people and have real estate agents there, and they would talk like we're talking. And they would talk about their frustration. At the time, it was like 5 guys that ran REO World in the Inland Empire. And agents would sit and talk and meet each other and have conversations. And that's something that really doesn't happen as much anymore. They're still on Facebook. You'll see people reaching out to each other. But that is because everybody is afraid of that thing. And like you said, that is the hard thing for me. That's why it still does go down to who you work with matter, because at some point you want people to understand and be on the same page with you and have that where you can do what we're doing. These mics were off, we'd have the same conversation. Yeah. And to me, like I said, I call several people when I'm like thinking like, I don't know what's happening. I was in the office Sunday. Like, I feel like this business is like a greased pig. It's just, you can't hold it. So I was sitting there and just going over things and trying to do another strategy and just trying to take a different approach, something that's different, and to stand out. And I feel that the agents are feeling this frustration of no inventory. Mm-hmm. But I also kind of feel, because we are all people. Right now we're dealing with some of the most fallouts, because I think people that see the rates popping up and are pulling back going, I don't want that house now at that rate.
Well, I also think that people are writing such crazy offers right off the bat that the moment they go into escrow and things slow down on them, and they're going there to do their home inspection, and they're in the house for an hour, they're walking around, they're getting the repair requests on how much this house is going to need to be fixed. They're like, then I'm paying $700,000, no appraisal, and have $25,000 worth of repairs I'm going to have to do. And it's like, no.
Well, welcome to adulthood.
Exactly.
Because here's the other thing. They can't run to renting, because if you think the housing market's out of control, the rental market makes that look tame.
Oh, for
it is
sure.
out of control.
I mean, $3,900 for a house in Riverside, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath is absolutely insane.
If you're a landlord, awesome.
Yeah.
But it is a tough time. But also too, I can tell any of those couples, I don't know what we bought our first house at. Like I said, that 285 might as well right now in today's dollar be $2.5 million to me. We were eking in, but we got in and it adjusts. And that's all I can tell anybody that's buying a home or a young couple. What your payment is, one day will be nothing to you, because that's just how life is. It's the largest investment. It's the smartest investment. And you can't be the guy or girl that sells their house for all that equity that didn't think about that in the beginning. Like I said, 285 was a lot. Then when the market crashed, short sale, we got out of that. We had a neg-am arm. It adjusted, and we paid it.
Yeah.
And we were lucky to get out of there. Maybe we made a couple $1,000. And it was like probably, I don't know, 4 something. I think the guy has it for sale, our home, because he's not using a realtor, that guy. And I think he's asking like 850 for that. But it's relative, because you're going to buy high. Yeah. I don't care if you go to Texas. I mean, that's some of the buyers you have now. Yeah, they're going out of state, but a lot of people are move-up buyers. And right now, rates aren't sexy. I mean, what's really good, because you see the refis non-existent. You've seen layoffs in that industry and all that. You're seeing it's kind of slowing it, but still super low. I mean, it's money. It's just what's helping a lot of us. We all refied super low rates. I mean, I think on our house is like a 1.9 or something. But also, that's why I think a lot of people are sitting back going, I'm not going to go buy that house, and then I got to have a loan at that amount.
See, that's the problem that people are going to not realize. I mean, if you're sitting at say a 2.5 and prices don't go down at all, it's like, why am I going to sell my house that I have a 2.5 rate at to go buy something for a 4.5, and my payment's an extra $1,500 a month for a house that might not be that much better than that?
You're right.
And Riverside's a hard market where people don't get is like not too many people downsized in Riverside and moved to Moreno Valley or moved to Beaumont. Riverside's a market where, in my opinion, is like when you sell, you're moving out of state. Like,
yeah,
because I've never had a client sell their house and be like, oh, where do you want to move to? I'm gonna sell and move to Banning. No one says that, because it's especially like. Take somewhere like Orange Crest or Canyon Crest or Victoria Woods or things like that, where it's just like, where do you upgrade? Like, where do you downgrade to? Like, it doesn't make any sense to do that.
Well, a lot of it is too. It's I think people are just. It was crazy having the market we had during COVID. It was crazy. Like, who's buying? But people were, and I think some of the rate. I'm not any conspiracy theorist about anything, but I think it slows it down a bit, because I think a lot of people are looking at a little unsure right now. I mean, I don't watch the news, so I don't know what's going on, because I could care less what each side's doing. But I think there's probably a little bit of people feeling like unsure about. But I mean, there's plentiful jobs. There's. I mean, most of the restaurants and stuff you go to, they can't get enough help.
Yeah.
But at some point, it will adjust and it will go again.
But even if we have even if we have a 10% price drop, we're still 15% higher than we were before the pandemic. So prices are still going to be good. The only people that you're going to have to it's like if you're buying and plan on staying in the house for 3 to 7 years, like, it doesn't really matter what's going to happen. Even if there is a 10% price drop in the next 2 years, like, that doesn't affect you on what the household is going to be. And I always say, no one gives a crap about money anyways. Because if you did, everyone would be selling right now. It's like 40% equity in Riverside right now. It's like no one cares that they have 40% equity. No one cares.
Which
you could sell your house and live in a trailer.
In a way, it makes me proud of my fellow human being. I mean, there are probably people screaming at this podcast because I don't know numbers and all that, but I really felt we were going to get there again, where people were going to get equity. and then they were going to get the keys to their equity again, because that's what happened last time. And I started hearing some of the commercials. You have equity. You deserve that boat. You deserve that. So they suck it out, go buy a bunch of toys, which if you look in parking lots are all looking really good. And I saw some refis, but you didn't see what, I don't think people tapped that equity
to go buy
cars. I think some people were just, I think some were. Now, if you get Nostradamus or somebody probably knows the market trends better than me, there is shadow inventory. There's, a lot of this forbearances where they're going to hit. Is that going to even happen? There's people that you could bring in here, Lance Martin, Doug, that could talk about that. But I don't worry myself about that.
Well, there's only 900,000 over the whole United States in forbearances right now. So even if those all hit at one time, we're so low.
Well, yes and no, because at the end of the day, I feel the same guys we bailed out and girls, they're going to look at the government again to bail them out, because depends on how. If somebody's missed, if you were in the COVID time, you couldn't work, and at some point, the government's writing a check to cover everything, trying. Yeah. But that's not our business. My business is to go out and throw smiles on, and nobody wants to work with a downer.
Yeah.
So to me personally, I go out, I just, like I said, back to our conversation originally, is only thing I could say to anybody, and I'm saying this to myself, enjoy the Rockies.
Yeah.
Because it ends.
Yeah. Do you try to express that to a lot of younger agents that are like looking at the top teams or things like that, and just being like, listen, like, you might think that you want to get to that level because you think that it's tons of money, but obviously you work with big teams and you're the ones that are getting calls at 7:30 at night. Do you try to advise newer, younger agents like to find the sweet spot of that might not be best for you just because you think, you see the cars and the trips and the houses and things like that?
It's a deep question. Because you know me personally, nobody really else does, but there's a cost to all this.
Yeah.
It really is. And I've paid it, still paying it. You've paid it. So when somebody comes to me, mostly people ask all the time, because I thought that's what you're going to do in this interview, is what do you do?
Yeah.
And somebody boiled it down so beautifully the other day. They wrote something nice for me.
Oh, yeah. Aaron Stell.
Aaron Stell. But I saved it because he said it. I'm in the people business.
Yeah.
I've always had people next to me, whether I drove or anything in my life, that I was able to help me and said, don't do that, do this. Even though I already had bumped into things. So I try to do that with people like yourself, Aaron, or anybody, because Biggie said it, more money, more problems. Yeah. And I can tell you, I have an ass full of them. I mean, when you get in this business for a certain thing, there's certain want. Vision boards, and I have them too, and I've accomplished a lot of my vision boards. But they cost me a lot. They've cost me sleep. They've cost me things that are just, I can't get back.
Yeah, I think it's like people want to make so much money and they think that it's so easy. Like, I laugh because, obviously
I don't think they think it's easy. I think they think it's going to cure their problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're poor and you're broke,
yeah,
which we've all been, if you haven't had money, there's no less powerless. There's the most powerless feeling as a man or in anybody when you don't have enough.
Yeah.
So you think, when I get this will cure all this. And that's, like I said, I've said before, I love that book, Winning, by Tim Grover. Grab it if you get it. Because he talks, because winning don't give a shit. So when you get there, and then it's like pulls the rug, like, there's another, you mean there's another room I got to get to?
Yeah.
And then you get there. And then you can look around as a man. You look around like your kids are grown, or your kids are gone, or your wife is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I know bunches of them that have had, it's hard. And those are the calls you get at 7, 9. I call people all the time. I mean, I talk to you personally. There are some things that success just hasn't fixed.
Yeah. It's crazy. I did a podcast the other day with Chris from Keller Williams, and he asked me a question. I wish I could re-answer it now. And he asked me,
you can.
I know, it's on my podcast. Boy. And he asked me, like, what do you do? What do you tell agents that are stuck at 15 deals to get to 30? And I should have said, I obviously threw like all the things, and I should have said what I should have said, because I think this is the true answer, is go find someone that's doing exactly what you want to do in the way you want to do it. And that's how you'll get to 30 deals, because not that you'll learn how to get to 30 deals. What it'll teach you is to control yourself when you get to 30 deals. Because if not, when you get to 30, then it's 45, then it's 60, then it's 80, then it's 100. And so the problem is that when you're always trying to chase the number, you're always going to be unhappy when you reach your goal. And so the reason why I say you need to go find someone who's doing 30 deals a year, because they have mastered the control of staying at 30 deals a year, because that's their sweet spot. And so it's about finding your sweet spot, and whatever that number is. Sometimes I sometimes wish that I had no office, no nothing, and I just did my 15 deals a year.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Since we're on making each other cry. So, do you think your grandfather was a success?
Oh, for sure. My grandfather was a success in the aspect of the knowledge that he was able to provide for his family. Not that my grandpa left me money or anything like that. And what's crazy, a lot of people don't realize this, like my grandfather and me hated each other when I was a kid. And so it's crazy in life when you're talking about sitting in the house looking up at the thing and everything's going to work out and blah, blah. Mm-hmm. In moments in time of my lowest level with going through massive depression, being fired from baseball, what am I going to do, losing my fiance, like my whole life just spiraling out of control. If it wasn't for me being fired, I would have never had the second chance with my grandfather, who then would have died, and I would not have probably even cared. And how crazy is that? When my grandmother died, his ex-wife died in 2009. I was in Lansing, Michigan. And I only met her maybe like 5 times my whole life, maybe, that I remember. And my dad called me up and he was like, hey, I have some bad news. What's up? And I said, your grandma died. And I said, okay. Mm-hmm. Didn't even care. Sadly, didn't even lose a tear. And so I know if I would have continued the life in baseball, my grandfather would have died and I would not have cared, because I never got to have that relationship with him. So success for him was to have those Wednesday meetings with me and to teach me all the things he lived over the last 92 years of his life, so I wouldn't make the same mistakes that he made.
So, that being said, your grandfather was nobody famous.
No.
Grandfather was not some of the people that we look at. We all have a moment in our life that changes us. So your grandfather changed you to be a different man. So if we have this time, I'll tell you what changed me.
Yeah.
So I have always been a very self-driven, selfish person, where I about myself. I wanted cars and all these things. So when I would always work, you lost a grandmother or somebody, you're like, I never went to funerals. I told people, because I went to your grandfather's, and there was a reason why. I always said, I don't go to them. I don't like them. Like, who likes funerals?
Yeah.
But I said, I didn't go. So I missed my grandfather's and all that. I was working. 1999, October 23rd, I get a call with my dad in the car. All I know, my dad starts crying, which I've never seen cry. And he drops the phone. So my mom's screaming on the other line at that. My brother died. He's dead. So I was like, okay. well, that doesn't go on the script because he's like 30.
Yeah.
So all this stuff happens. He had struggled with substance. So when I went to see him, I thought, well, this selfish son of a bitch died of an overdose.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to the lady. She said, let me tell you something about your brother. Your brother was a leader here. He was deaf.
Mm-hmm.
He was deaf his whole life. So I didn't know sign language either, folks. So I don't know how we got along.
Yeah.
We're a year apart, but we did. So I go there, and she says, you know, your brother, he went to a fun house, which is for drug recovery. You know, you go through heaven.
Mm-hmm.
The last part, you go through hell. He was very afraid to go through hell. They gave him a Bible at the end. He gets through it. So I come to find out, I talked to the coroner. He was found with the Bible. He just stopped breathing. He was reading it. No drugs in his system, clean.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that changed my life, I had saw him a week before that. I hadn't seen him in a long time. I was at my son's football game, and he looked beautiful. He looked like Jesus. His hair was just beautiful. So me and my wife were going to dinner. So we go to dinner, and I tell my wife, I go, you know, I really love my brother. And being the wife that I have, she goes, you do, but you didn't invite him to dinner. And that's the last time I ever saw him again.
Mm-hmm.
So I did his eulogy, and I said what we're talking about. I said, I never had time for him. I never had time for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Better cars, trying to get better house, get all those things gonna make me cool.
Yeah.
And I said, now that we have time, as I'm looking at his body, I'm like, we have no more time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what changed me. He's with me.
Yeah.
So that's when I started going to funerals. I didn't really know you that well. I started going to everybody's because it ain't for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the people in the front row.
Yeah.
Because I noticed when my brother died who was there
Mm-hmm.
and who wasn't. So it changed my direction as a person. Like Stephen says, I'm everybody's father because I'm blessed to sit back like a lifeguard. I get to watch you guys struggle. Sometimes it's hard, man. Sometimes your arms are tied and you watch somebody drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you sit with them and you just say, hey, young buck, it's going to work out. Like you guys are all trying to fit into this. You know, you get these coaches, you know the coaches I'm talking about, tell you, do this, kill that, crush 12-year-olds. They don't ever talk to you about, I have met so many people that are so financially well and they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. I mean, it's okay to be miserable in a Bugatti.
Well, it's like Gary Vee says,
Yeah.
people always would, I'd rather cry in my Ferrari. He goes, the problem is you're not the one crying in the Ferrari.
So I drove a little bit longer after my brother. But pretty quickly I went on the path of, so that's where I'm at today. The kids are gone, but problems come.
Mm-hmm.
And when those problems come, you hope to have people around you that you can say, hey, you know, Adam, you know, what do you think?
Yeah.
Or Doug, who've been huge to me. Stephen, all these people that. But also it's tough watching people. It's almost how people probably feel like somewhere in that crowd or somewhere on TV was Will Smith's friend or Chris Rock's friend.
Yeah.
And go, you know, it's hard watching. Like when you watch your friends go through divorces and fights and trouble and team breakups and people leave and all that, it's hard. But one thing you want people to know when they look around the room, that guy's still standing there,
Mm-hmm.
or that girl. They're here. I'm here. Whether we get to know office, because you could say, I knew Adam before he had an office.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you get to. When you meet some people, you go, that person's going to be good.
Yeah, and I think that's the funny thing, Doug, and to bring up Doug, the one funny thing he always says to me, he goes, when a title rep or someone comes in my office and drops off a calendar, he's like, you think that's what's going to get my business, dropping off a calendar? Really? Or you think I'm that easy that you can just buy me lunch and I'm going to flip?
Well, there are a lot of people that use some, there's, you know, like I said, I've talked about some of the top pros in my business. I know who they work with. And everybody has that little something because, like I said, it matters to me. My clique, you know, I said, I got a big personality, but if you really know me, my circle is super small.
Which I think you have to be that way.
It's not. It's because I've told you before, when you came to my house and then you had to go to the neighbor's party.
Greatest night of my life.
But it's almost your sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you know, all my great friends are my clients.
Yeah.
I don't get that twisted, but also too, it's like they all add something to me, and there comes a point where you're like, all those people say, like, you got to be willing, like, I'm gonna carry a gun for you. I mean, you have to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that it's also hard watching people go through those changes. Like I said, everybody wants a team till team problems.
Yeah.
And you get team
I
problems.
always say that. Yeah, you want it until the team problem is going to happen. And then that's the thing too, that like, when you're a team leader, you care so much about your people because you have to.
Oh.
And then it's like when you get burned, it's like, dude, it's like we just went on vacation. We just had a team trip to Mexico.
I've had that.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah, but you know, almost too. Because when you run a team, your job now is that team. Mm-hmm. You don't sell real estate no more. Your clients aren't your clients; it's your team. But also to every one of those people that I've ever seen leave a team, it is almost an homage to that person when they do well.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal: somebody gave me the chance, and I've said a name many times. Everything I do is an homage to him, even if it may not, like we compete against each other. It is, I have to feel like when you see somebody you gave a chance and they grow, when somebody sits there like, I got to hate you, that says something about you. But when somebody goes and takes it to the next level, like in music, that person bred that person to become that person. So to me, the first part of team is we're doing us versus everybody. Then it's us versus each other.
Yeah.
And then it's the fallout, and it's the problem, and it's team problems. And I've seen people come in poor, and I've seen people get rich and then get poor, and then I see people get problems.
I think that's the saddest thing to watch is when someone's like comes from nothing, they go to an office or a team, they crush it, then someone gets in their head to, you could do this on your own, and then they leave, and then they go back to nothing, and they have too much pride or whatever to come back.
The guy in the other room.
Yeah, and
well,
it's like, dude, it's just like, you literally had it, you know.
Well, it's the Yoko Ono thing.
Yeah,
broke the Beatles up, allegedly.
Well,
but no,
wasn't his girlfriend or whatever.
Yoko Ono.
Yeah,
but you know, the funny thing is, even though I was older, getting in this 40, I went.
Do you think they helped you?
It absolutely did, because I was set. Like I've told you before, like watching Joe and them, I felt for them. They're getting in as kids. Like Joe was 20-some, 25. Drop a bunch of money on somebody at 20, like he got 27, 28. But you start making money. Like I was already 40, driving a 03 Expedition with stickers from kids on it. Yeah. I was already leveled.
You were that guy, yeah.
But I also went through my teenage years. There came a point when I was like, and you're right, recruiting's fun. People like, hey man, you getting this? You're like, what?
Yeah.
They have a parking space?
Yeah.
They didn't tell you that?
Yeah.
No. So then you talk to the one that can't be mentioned.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey man. And they're like, who told you that? Like, so you go through that period. Like I got through a period like 4 or 5 years in. You're like, I'm just shit. I got this figured out. You know. Then you start getting successful. Then you're like, huh.
And then it sucks because you don't feel like you can show people your success because of clients like we were talking about the vacation, like the clients or other agents or whatever. And it's like, God, can I just show, like, I'm proud of what I've done.
I've heard that Rockwell eats a very expensive steak. You know, that is the thing I don't understand. I mean, you've talked about this 100 times. I don't understand. Agents and lenders can show all their stuff.
Which I don't feel like I can.
every title rep I know doesn't, except for my son.
That's that G-Wagon.
But that's that market. But also, too, that also brought a little sadness, too, when you can't drive or show what you have. And maybe that's just in my brain.
See, that's why I like Tesla. That's why I want to get a Tesla, because a Tesla's like a nice car, but like
the marker of the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
When everybody gets successful, they got to get a Tesla.
And when they get a Tesla.
Well, but that's okay, because I actually am different. I love seeing people get things. Like if you bought a beach house, I'm going to be the one clapping the loudest. Like I love when I see clients buy houses by the Victoria Club. I like it. You should, because that, but I also found when I bought things that were on my vision board, the one thing I bought something that was on my vision board, and the thing that scared me, I'll tell you the truth, the thing that scared me the most is when I got in it, I felt nothing.
Yeah.
I felt literally.
Was it a car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt dead inside. Like I felt like nothing. It was spooky, because in my family, my wife, that's not negotiable. But I worked since I was 14 for this.
Yeah.
Like 14. Like I wanted it, and it was just, I had it on there, and I ended up buying it because my son's like, oh, he ain't never going to do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I'm just going to die, and I'm never going to do it. And I got COVID when I did it, because I was like, you know what? Because you got that thing, everybody's like, the Doors song comes on, this is the end. You're like, so I get in this car, and I never forget it. The guy's like, hey, man. Yeah. I was like, it scared me. I was like, then none of this means anything. Then none of these goals that you put up there, you're going to cry in a beach house.
So that's so crazy for me. Like nothing. I'm the same. Nothing makes me, like a car does not make me.
But if you don't grab that, because my family, my wife, that does. That's why when people are like, oh, I write all that stuff. It's not for her. She don't see her responding. It's for me, because what I'm doing is I'm reminding myself, you had no car. You were broke. You had a house that was foreclosed. Like you better appreciate this part, because this part is everything, because then nothing matters. So if we were in a room with a bunch of top producers, a couple you have that you've interviewed, it doesn't. They can post that car and all that stuff, but who are you telling?
Yeah.
And it frightened me. It really still does, because now that vision board means nothing. Because if you get it and it's just put it over here, that is going to be a very long life of no fulfillment. If you look at the Amalfi Coast and you go, cool, all right, let's go, you're going to find disappointment. So I think what I'm trying to find, like you, rich enjoyment.
Is it? Do you think when you go to the beach, is that because you like going to the beach a lot in the RV? Like, is that something that kind of gives you that enjoyment that you look for?
A lot of people make fun of me, but I have to.
They make fun of you because they wish they could go to the beach every single week.
Well, here's the deal. At 57, I think what happened for you with your grandfather, when I lost my father a couple of years ago, I didn't really think that would hit me as hard as it did, because I was always conditioned by him and my family as the oldest to just move on. It was just something to do.
Check the box and move.
And I didn't. When you lose your father and you sit there, there's that look between a father and a son, which happened in the hospital. It's that look of like, I'm not going to make this. Because when you're an eldest son, your whole life you're raised like, hey, you might have to take this over. And when dad's gone, as a kid, you need to take care of mom. Well, one day it's in the hospital, and it's just the look. It's not said. It's like, I'm not, and here's your hero laying there, dying, and you're got that look like, I got this. So my family is funny. We deal with every bit of sadness with humor. It's who we are. Yeah. The doctor was like, okay, but you need to know who he was. But I believe we all come from the sea, the ocean. So my dad loved the beach. As kids, he took us there all the time. So when I'm there, I feel him and my brother. I just feel him. You do pictures, you see those green orbs. I believe that's your loved one. So when I'm at the beach, also for that, me and my wife, we relax. I talk to her like I'm not. But
you're not like in that. I think that they're like finding ways to slow down.
Of course, when I drink, I start calling you guys. Yeah, I start drinking, but
that's you and everyone else.
Yeah, but I feel him there because I don't know. That's just it, know. And you feel that thing that comes. And there's, I'm sure there's places you go. That's your happy spot. For me, it's the beach. Huntington's always been a happy spot for me, but. Because then again, that becomes like sometimes your residents work. That's where real pressures are at, you know. So, but also too, it's like me and you suit up every day because we love it. I mean, it's like I'm sure that people that play a sport, it becomes a business. Yeah. But also too, in that time in those lines, I mean, it's a blessing to do it, And then, but like I said, it's mostly dealing with the outcome of the success part, is watching everybody. That's why when everybody's making these predictions, I'm going to be 58 4th of July. Everybody write that down so they can send me a gift. Yeah. And I read this article the other day. They polled these people in an old folks home, hospice. They're on the last days of their life. And they asked them what was their biggest regret. 100%. 100% came back saying they wish they didn't care or worry about what people thought and worry. Because that's all we do. So you're going to look back, because I don't feel 58. I don't know when that happened. Like, it was like, wow. And one day you look and you're like, your kids are grown. And you're like, so all that shit that I worried about on the road or the market and all that, it just worked itself out. It just did. So tonight when I lay down, I'll have that's the problem. We lay down, that thing lays with you. It's like, hey, I'm here. All the shit you didn't do. Yeah. You didn't get the Bugatti. Failure. Yeah. But that's the only thing I can really say. It's like all those things I had talked about, your grandfather, all that.
I think that's like the one thing that's so interesting when people like come to me about whatever in this industry, and it's just like what you truly need is, and what sucks is like, I know you're checking your time. We're almost done. Because I had to go show a house and do the final walkthrough. But it's not the CRM. It's not marketing money. It's not let's sit down and figure out a game plan for your business. And I want people to realize that if lenders and title and escrow and whomever else is trying to tell you this, if they were that good, they would do real estate themselves. Right?
Well, I mean,
so what I'm saying is like
everything looks easy.
It's not those items that you should plan on working for someone. Just like when you go find an office to work for, I'm sorry, there's no difference between Keller Williams, Remax, Century 21. There's no difference between any of those things. But when things are hitting the fan, because they will, whoever you're working with, if you think that they're going to be the person that can go to help, then that's who you work with. Real estate, non-real estate, or issues, whatever. But it's like when things are hitting the fan, because it will. It's not always going to be perfect in your personal life or business. Are they the person that you can call to talk out what is going to happen? And it's not going to be a new website. And I think that's the thing that people think, well, how much money are you going to give me? What systems do you have? It's like, why don't you just have a real conversation with that person? Have they gone through the hard moments?
So few of it is, and I've said it, I think the last conversation we had, if somebody's willing to talk to you, help you, give you their experience, you or me or anybody, why wouldn't you take it? I offered that. Like, I said it to my clients. Reach out to me. I mean, we can have a conversation. Yeah. Mostly my presentation to people isn't a presentation. It is, do I want to work with you? And do you want to work with me? That is one of the best things that changed. I work with who I want to now. I just do. Hector does all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But I like to have conversations with people because let's just lay it out there. And then together we can work from there to talk about we're all trying to get to the same goal.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the best thing. In the beginning, I figured when I got into title, I figured like, well, this could be real estate or whatever. I'm going to figure out what I'm good at. In the beginning, people saw that.
Yeah.
So my guy that brought me in is like, you got to just commit. And this is it. This is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also understand the arena, because that's one thing we talked about last interview. No one ever asked himself, why are there so few title reps?
Yeah.
This is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is not easy. And it takes time to build yourself. And when you do, you have to build yourself again and again and again. So when I get this, my last anger a couple weeks ago is because somebody said, oh, this is what I use. Because I'm like, Hector's going to love this one. Because I said the quote. Because somebody's like, I use such and such because she's great. I said, sugar and salt look just alike from a distance. But in the taste test, it'll show. Now, you got to love that, because I was that at one point. But when somebody compares me to that, we ain't the same people. Yeah. We ain't. I'm in the lab on the Saturdays and Sundays and all that, just because I'm still thinking about this. So when somebody's like, hey, I'll just use such and such. Don't sell my house. You're like,
it pisses me off.
Sugar and salt. We ain't the same.
Yeah.
Baking soda just looks like that too.
Yeah.
But it's like, but it angers me, and I have to calm it down because people have freedom of choice. This isn't Russia.
Yeah.
So I sit there and I go, okay, then I have to provide more value. Mm-hmm. What did I not do in you? Did I miss something? Because, I can call 20 people that are raving fans, but it's the ones that like, I just kind of I do a wheel.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about that is like, it's like also that aspect. It's like they don't understand keeping everything the same. The things you can keep the same, the sooner or later you can focus on getting more business.
I don't even think you have Brittany.
No.
You just...
No, that's what I'm saying.
You stay out of things,
that's what I'm saying.
That's awesome.
Like, that's what I try to tell people. I'm like, keep everything the exact same. We work with the same photographer, the same escrow, same titles, same lenders.
Unless you don't use me, then don't use the same.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that there are people like, listen, I tell people, in my business, there are different specialties. And I could sit down, you can have 3 of these guys and girls here, and I'll tell you their specialty.
Yeah.
Like I told you before, I had a little hit list. I still do. I know their strengths and I know their weaknesses. And you need to. Same as when you go in a listening presentation, who you want to go last because you're like, oh, you talk to such and such and such and such. Okay. I know that, but I know that about them, and I ain't going to mess with them on that. But they don't got this. And so a lot of times when you miss on clients and let's say they use one of the top professionals, you're like, okay, I'm going to wait for this opportunity. I'm going to just keep, but here's the thing with me, I just keep chipping.
Yeah.
I just keep chipping till something breaks. And by the way, I know that people chipping right behind. I know the techs are the worst, but you got somebody behind you, and I much respect, but that I like. And then the rest of it, did we do it all?
Yeah.
We did it all.
We did it all
what,
again.
2 hours this time?
No, an hour. So it felt like 2 hours.
Felt like...
No. Now I got to go show a house.
You do real estate? I thought this was...
You know, it's interesting. And someone actually said that to me the other day. Like, I was like, I got to go show a house. Like, you show houses? And I'm like, yeah.
Dressed like that?
Dressed like this. I'm like, all the time. And they go, really? I was like, we never see you post on Instagram. And I was like, my job is to show houses. Why would I need to explain that to you?
Well, you know...
And it gives no value to my followers. Cool, I'm showing a house today.
By
Big
the
deal.
way, which is beautiful about your business, it's made you more than that. This is your forte. You do a great job at it. I'm probably your worst interview. But you do a great job, and it's brought from it this. Like Decker, he does other things.
Yeah.
There are people that this became that. So for me, it's brought me a lot of great things. So it's nice to see you don't have to be one thing. It's not like on school day when they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? You can be multiple things. Real estate just happens to be something that's a part of what you do. You're
Well, I also think that you just leverage one thing for another thing and another thing, but I also think what it keeps us from going insane. Because for me, it's I can do something that's real estate related, which is helping me grow my business, but is not directly real estate. Like my number one, the best thing I love doing in this industry is creating some type of educational video that I've seen no one post that someone says that was a great video and it really helped me.
You know why? It's because you're resilient.
Exactly.
Because you realized, and that's what's beautiful about today, that you can do anything. Like it's never in history would you ever think you could just, like you would watch people on TV or on the radio and you think there's somebody, but you just went and bought mics.
Yeah.
And now you have this and it turns into something else. And you're very great at it. And I love watching your videos. But it's like, it's awesome to see that because who knows where this will take you.
Well, and I think for me, like I was never like, it's funny. It's like, I can't how I look at things is you can't control being funny. Like, when people try to do funny skits, that's funny for maybe 50% of people and 50% they don't think it's funny. But if you do something where someone can learn something from it, that's almost 100% of people can take that in.
Well, I mean, I think we talked about it last time. I think anybody thinks they can podcast.
Yeah.
I can tell you, when those lights come on, it's not easy doing this.
It's definitely different. And
it's hard.
Not even the podcast people can get, but like setting up appointments, getting more people to come in here, like keeping the momentum to do this every single week.
You're talking to me like we're friends.
Yeah.
Like imagine you're talking to somebody, how's the cookie business?
Exactly.
And then I've seen you create a web like a spider. You've gone from there and you're like, so you're having to talk to people you don't know.
Exactly.
So it's easy if you're talking Doug.
Yeah, to your friend. Doug's
you're like, hey, how was Tuesday?
It's like I just saw you yesterday.
Yeah, but when I hear you talk to people from like different industries, I'm thinking you have to do some homework on that. Like you have to do where you're like, or it's going to be 15 seconds of like.
The one thing I do wish, and I need to start doing a better job of this explaining to people, is that a podcast is both like I've had people like, can I ask you a question? I'm like, yeah, we're just talking. Like that's something I do need to remind. Can I ask you a question? Yeah, of course you can ask me a question. We're on a podcast. We're talking. So no, I just think that I'm very excited because you know what's crazy, and I'm actually gonna have my parents in on here. And the one biggest mistake I made is I didn't do this sooner because it would have been unbelievable to have an hour of my grandfather. And that's the one thing people don't get about all this crap. Is that say something happened to me tomorrow and I died, my family will have hours and hours and hours of content of me, and anytime they miss me, they can easily go back and watch.
You're right.
Tons of stuff. And when my niece and nephew have kids one day, they could be like, "Oh, my uncle was amazing and watch this." And I don't think people realize.
Please call your parents. I want to interview my mom. Like, that time?
Yeah.
You can give me. Well, actually, funny last story. That all came when they were talking. I didn't know when my dad's last time I call him the closer. The doctor that's the closer comes and he gives you the options. It's like Foursquare.
Yeah.
He's like this, that. And he didn't know him. And he goes, so this that'll get him if we can do this, but then that'll happen. So he goes, I don't know him. So what kind of guy is he? And I go, he's if we're being charged, take me out back and shoot me guy. And he goes, I heard he was funny. So we were there with the doctor, and my dad's there, young doctor, and he's like, we're sorry, and we're going to help him into his next life.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, you don't know who this guy is, but he's funny. We knew he was in trouble when Hector's cousins walked in and they're good looking and he didn't whistle. He didn't say nothing. We went, oh, he's dying. So I go, when I was 8 years old, my dad promised me a bike and he didn't buy me a bike. So I promised that day I would unplug him someday. So is there a plug or anything, like anywhere around, like some like a pull out? And he's like, that's pretty funny. And I go, no, seriously, a switch? Or, no. You know, to me, you're right. You know, interviewing your parents, you can't believe how cathartic that is.
Yeah.
I had some trips with my dad when my son played football, and we had some great conversations, and you can look back and in your mind you can play them, put them back, and you play them over.
Yeah.
You're like, and so, but you're right.
Yeah.
Interviewing would be great.
Yeah.
But you did. You had a lot of coffee with your grandfather. I remember.
Yeah, a lot of memories.
He had a lot of memories. So.
A lot of memories.
Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
Good.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks, all.
You know what? Anyone that ever knows Anthony can always talk. I've never seen someone get pulled up to more random speeches than him, and he always pulls it off. So if you ever need a podcast, he's your man to go. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you watching. Until next time. Peace.